As a kid, what did you think was a very normal thing to do? Which it really wasn't. Having a path through the house, surrounded by boxes and junk stacked to the ceiling. I grew up in a hoarder house. Occasionally us kids would run too fast through the path, knocking into the sides, and the boxes and stuff would collapse on top of us. This one hits close. The paths through the house. The weird thing was that my mom was a clean freak about floors / dishes / laundry and whatnot. House always smelled nice, but the things would all be moved to clean and then stacked up the walls again. Like, dude, you don't need 8 sets of nice dishes kept in boxes if you're never going to use them. I smiled with my lips on the inside of my mouth. I don't know how I managed to not learn how to smile properly, but I thought I was smiling normally until a kid said, "Stop smiling like that. You look weird." And I spent a good week looking up pictures of smiles and practicing how to smile. I'm confused as to how this would look like. You curl your lips around your teeth? TBH, I never saw what it looked like myself in a mirror or something. I think I just pursed them into a thin line and used my cheek muscles to curl it on the sides. If it helps. I showed my BF and he said I looked like Donald Duck without a beak. When you went to the sitter every day, you were to sit on the couch and never move. Seriously. My brothers, sister and I were forced to sit on the couch with the TV on at the sitter's house while her kids ran around like a bunch of hellions. When we got a new sitter after moving, all 4 of us promptly sat on the couch and stayed there. Our new sitter pulled a bunch of toys out and sat in the floor and played with us. A literal sitter. Wash my 2 pairs of pants and 2 sweaters every few days because they were the only clothes my parent had bought me for school. Eating canned button mushrooms for lunch because there was nothing else to eat in the house. Not for a lack of parental funds. Didn't realize other kids didn't live like this until I hit 13ish. Whispering what I just said back to myself. Apparently I did it all the time as a kid and never noticed until a couple of friends pointed it out to me. I would be like, "Let's play Barbies," and then quietly, "Let's play Barbies." I have no idea what that was about. Brick. I'm lying. Having camping nights. Mom would light candles and make dinner with camping gear. She and I would play games until my bedtime, huddled up in the living room. It was because she was crazy poor when she divorced my dad, and a few times she couldn't pay the electricity on time. I thought it was fun. If you haven't, you should tell her. When our kids were young, we rented a house in a more posh neighborhood to be close to my husband's job. And it was impossible to keep up with the Genesis. We just didn't have the money. But I did things like reading Little House on the Prairie by oil lamplight, or turning our already very sparsely furnished house into a haunted house for my son's birthday party. My daughter told me recently that she adored the lamplight readings, and the cool rich classmates said it was the best birthday party they'd been to. It meant a lot to this mom, who wanted to give her kids the world but couldn't afford it. Edited because rambunctious puppies caused a post before I was finished. P. Have speed up spells where it feels like I just got off a treadmill and my internal monologue is yelling. Turns out I have epilepsy and was having seizures. Didn't realize back when I was like 7. But presented with tonic-clonics, grand mal, at 15. Or listen to the air vent and hear music in white noise. This was likely auditory hallucinations. Also due to epilepsy. Stupid brain. I pretty much always hear faint music in white noise. It feels like it's a song I know, but it's just not loud enough that I could recognize and be sure. Collecting roadkill and utilizing insects to clean the bones so I could collect them. Jeff Dahmer over here. If so, I'm a pretty late bloomer. At almost 40 I have murdered Noon. Funny you mention him though. I remember being like 10 or 11 when we watched a special on him. When they got to the part about him collecting roadkill, I was like, oh shit, apostrophe. Not telling your family when or where you were going or what you were up to or how long you would be gone. I remember as early as 6 I was wandering off to another neighborhood and across a busy road to find playmates. As I got older, I would go to friends' houses for days on end, still never needing to check with anyone or let anyone know at home I was going. It didn't really click until I got my first roommate after college who bugged out and was about to call the cops because I went to my boyfriend's house, turned my phone off, and took a long nap in the middle of the day as he worked nights. We had an argument where I kept saying I'm an adult. You don't need to keep track of me, and it took a while for me to understand that even adults check in with each other for safety and they don't normally just disappear for a few days. I'm sorry, do your parents realize you exist or did you just fall out and walk away at birth? WTFF, are they even good for? Jesus Christ, you deserve better. Biting my washcloth in the bath. OS, I forgot about this. I remember the exact taste too, which was at least 22 years ago, lol. Wow, you just made me remember this. Thought it was totally normal, help people whose cars had broken down on the side of the road. That's what my dad always did. Stopped, asked what the trouble was, helped with repairs or a run to get more gas, gave rides, on more than one occasion bought someone a meal, and on one very memorable occasion, literally gave someone the shirt, jacket, off his own back. I grew up watching and participating in this, so when I started driving, I also thought it was totally normal for me to stop for disabled cars, roll down the window so as to be safe, tell the person to hang on, and I'd be back with my dad and go get him. I'm in my late 30s now, and while I had a cell phone at that time, it was a giant brick that lived in my glove box for emergencies and I don't think I ever used. Dad never seemed to mind these adventures. It was only after I was out of the house and in my 20s that I started realizing that most people do not stop and offer to help, and that my dad is in fact even more amazing than I already realized. Jesus. I was going to say cutting pickle spears into little triangles to eat alongside your sandwich. This thread went in a way different direction. Be unique. Tell us about your quirky little take on food. It needs to be in triangle form. My family are not comfortable around each other. Never any touching, kissing or cuddling. Any physical contact is forced and horribly awkward. No one also talks, and any disagreements simmer for years with a grudging resentment. When I first started dating my now husband, I was shocked his family would just sit close to each other. Like their legs would touch on the couch. Like not overly touchy. Just normal. But not normal to me. They also spoke to each other if they were upset. I was quite envious. Experienced this with my ex-boyfriend's family I lived with for a few years. It took me a while to get used to, but it taught me so much about what I want for myself someday. Building homes for snails and slugs when it rained. My older brother and I would love to go outside when it rained and collect slugs and snails to put in these little pebble shelters we'd make for them in the backyard. Edit. Wow, as a non-social kid hopping between houses, I never knew how common this was. Thanks for the awards. We did this for Ollie Pollies, and not just when it rained. They never appreciated it. Just went back under their log again. How dare they? If I were a Ollie Polly, I would live in those quilty homes. Apparently when I was a kid I used to pick up quarters on the street. My parents didn't want me doing that, so my dad told me to not pick up coins because people put them in their butts. I didn't use change for anything until I started driving at 16. A crack bandit. Whoever awarded the bear hug. Too soon. Bear down for midterms. Trusting everything people say to me. This is an underrated comment. For some reason I think I was born an idealist or something. I was told as a kid that lying is wrong because I clearly and intentionally lied once, and that we should always tell the truth. So I just thought that everyone told the truth, and if someone lied, their feelings would be hurt / immediately, as if somehow the person knew right away. So I've always trusted others 100%. I've slowly gotten depressed because thinking everyone else is right makes everything I think wrong. And now I'm trying hard to learn to not trust others always. Sitting together at the table for meals, especially dinner. We frequently got McDonald's, had TV dinners, or had ramen / mac and cheese. I didn't know until I was an older teen that families actually sat down to talk to each other every day, because I thought that only happened in shows and movies. Sitting down at the table makes me uncomfortable, even to this day. Like, I don't even know how to prep the table. My parents made us have dinner around the table to talk about our days. But it always seemed forced. It didn't help that I would be yelled at or chastised for anything I said about school, but also criticized for being silent. So I wanted to eat dinner in front of the TV, just so they'd pay attention to something else. Shoveling food into your face as quickly as possible while huddled around the TV. It wasn't until a sleepover at a friend's house that I encountered a family sitting around a dinner table talking about their day. At the time it made me super uncomfortable, but I've learned to slow down and appreciate it more with time. I'm a 34-year-old man and I sadly know I can eat a tilapia fillet in 6 seconds. Using con bags. They're cotton squares or rounds filled with dried con. You put them in the microwave for a heating pad and the freezer for an ice pack. I still use and make them. I just didn't realize nobody else used them until like high school. Mayo edit. I'm loving all the different variations people had/have of this. I'm glad I'm not alone. You can also use rice. My parents sleeping in separate rooms. My mom snores like crazy and I understood why my dad would hate that. Turns out, dad was gay. I dated a girl whose parents were happily married but lived in 2 separate homes. In the same town. In the same neighborhood. Less than a mile from each other. Both homes were in each other's names and all of their finances were interwoven. They just found that for their relationship it was better to live apart. When we were all together they seemed very happy and would sleep over at each other's homes. It was like they were a happy dating couple who just hadn't moved in together. I remember in year 8 in school we watched a video about mental health. One of the kids said that at a low point he considered suicide. I didn't think that was a big deal because I thought about killing myself almost every day. I thought it was normal and everybody did it. It's been nearly 10 years since my attempt, and it still boggles my mind that there are people who don't think that every day. I'm glad you're here today. Opposite but. I had a neighbor who had extremely, and I mean extremely, strict parents. We were invited to a sleepover of about 5 or 6 girls at one of the other neighbor kids' place, and she was shocked to see that we had candy and popcorn and soda/pop to eat at our disposal after 6 p.m. She had no idea. To us, it was normal sleepover snacks, but to her it was like looking at Willy Wonka himself. Crazy. I was that kid. We didn't have any junk food in the house. No soda, no chips, no candy, etc. The kitchen was closed after dinner. Anytime I was at someone's house with what I now know is normal snacks I was so fucking excited to eat some junk. Totally messed me up. BTW. Don't do that to your kids. The second I was able to make my own food choices I went insane and gained a ton of weight. Sleeping in the display beds at the furniture store. My parents are divorced, and when we were little we'd go week to week at each parent's house. Well, my dad worked at Montgomery Wards and opened the store maybe 3 days a week. That meant he had to be there at 5 a.m. During his weeks, he'd stuff us in the car in our jammies and drive us up to Monkey Woods as he called it. Then we'd all get snug in our own display beds and sleep for another hour and a half. Once some other employees showed up and it got closer to school hours, he'd get us dressed in the dressing rooms and drive us to school. He really did love us and tried hard for us. That's actually kind of awesome. Those display beds always looked so comfortable. Dying. Over the period of about a year, when I was 9 to 10 years old, 4 different people on the street I lived on died unnatural deaths. The old lady next door electrocuted herself trimming the hedges. One of the neighbor kids I played with accidentally shot himself playing with his father's gun in front of his sister. Another playmate's father was a cop and was shot and killed in the line of duty, and a 16-year-old girl was raped and murdered in her own house. Never solved, even though everybody knew who did it. I also had a cousin I was close to die in a car accident, but he didn't live on the same street. So with all that, I just assumed that was a normal rate of death. So naturally, I assumed that I was going to die at some point in the near future. Took a few years to get over that. My dad would put chocolate frosting on a graham cracker, kinda like a s'more but no marshmallow, and it would be a treat for us for a few days. Like cookies. I think it's BC there were times we couldn't afford cookies or brownies for lunch, but we usually had graham crackers and frosting, so he made sure we had something sweet for our lunches. Edit. Wow, I went to sleep and this blew up a mayo. Thank you all for the upvotes, awards, and the stories of your own. And for those that have never tried it, it is really good. This anecdote makes me like your dad. Being forced to eat way more than what I could until my stomach would hurt for hours. Not traumatizing like other stuff in this post. Just something I don't miss. On a lighter note, walking in stealth mode throughout the whole house all the time because I wanted to be like Pocahontas when she spies on John Smith. I still walk around the house like that, lol. I wish my roommate would do the same. My parents have what we now know was developmental disorders, but was previously known as being slow. Think it was 2nd grade when I started doing math for my parents. We went out for shopping or dinner. Then I'd check the grocery receipt or tally the tip. In more ways than one, I became very independent from my parents at a young age. I didn't realize until late high school, interacting with my boyfriend's family, that normal children don't speak to their parents like equals. It was awkward to say the least. It took many years to learn how to be respectful to your elders and not throw my weight around. I had thought every kid needed to keep their parents in line. Awkward. What can I say? I'm a working kid raising 2 parents. We are Jewish. My family used to play Would They Hide Us? A fun dinner time conversation game where we suggest families we are friends with and figure out whether they would be willing and capable of hiding us should the Nazis ever take over America. I thought everyone did that. I'm Jewish, and this is simultaneously hilarious to me and super depressing. I thought everyone got beat by their father, so I disliked men who had kids because they probably beat their children too. When I was kid, I genuinely believed all moms were nice and all dads were mean. Like a good cop / bad cop kinda thing. It seemed like such a natural conclusion. My dad has always been emotionally abusive. All the kids on my street had really strict asshole dads, and my best friend had a physically abusive dad. Of course, I eventually realized this was not the case when I started noticing positive portrayals of dads in the media, but I didn't meet anyone who liked their dad in real life until my sophomore year of high school. Same. I always thought there was a mean parent and a nice parent. Turns out, nope. My dad is abusive and that is not normal.